Hello, everyone. I'm Tracy Derwin, and I'm here with Shane Buell. In today's video, we'll be running through the Bondi Beach shooting in Australia that happened on December 14th. And we're going to point out the inconsistencies and the very quick media takeover of the narrative, which we have a lot of proof is not what actually happened, and also the manipulation of some of the names being used and people getting blamed for this when it's not them, and also introduce a crisis actor that was on camera. So first I'm going to have Shane do the two angles because I know when I saw this event, I couldn't figure out what exactly was happening. So he was able to put the two angles together so we can get a better picture of what happened.
All right. I'll go ahead and play that now. The first thing you'll notice on the left panel is the Good Samaritan that runs in to disarm one of the shooters. This guy was known as Ahmed Al Ahmed, who was a Syrian Muslim who had immigrated to Australia. So he disarms the guy and takes his rifle. And then you can see the accomplice in the right panel runs up a little bit closer to fire off some shots before going back up the stairs. So this guy is behind the tree with the rifle, but he does later set it down, as you see there. Now, the younger shooter is back up on top of the stairs, and his alleged father accomplice is now making his way back, and he fires off about 4 rapid shots in about 5.2 seconds. And I do believe that's just to lay down suppressive fire as a cover for his accomplice so he can make his way back. I don't necessarily think he was actually aiming to hit anything. I think he was just trying to lay down cover for his accomplice. All right, so now his alleged father is making his way back up the stairs, and they're using the walls there as cover, so it looks like a very good defensive position. It's elevated with plenty of cover there. However, pretty soon here, I think is when we do see the cops, or perhaps it's a detective or a plainclothes policeman. I'm not sure really. It could be a civilian who is armed, although I doubt that that's a thing in Australia. But pretty soon here, we're going to see in the left panel, there's going to be, when he pans back over to the right to show the shooters here, you're going to eventually see someone come up behind them and take cover behind the little tree there, behind the lamppost right there. Now, I do believe this to be an undercover or plainclothes detective who is squaring up, and he takes out the older of the two shooters. And then the video ends there, and that's right about the time when the younger of the two shooters actually gets shot, but he does survive and is taken into custody.
Okay, so just the younger guy survived with a shot, and then the
Right,
older didn't. Yeah, that
right.
was really helpful to see it like that, like side by side. Okay. And then we also want to mention that across the street of where this happened is a police station. So, not the best place to pull something off like this. And there is some testimony from a guy saying that it took a while for, return shots or a response. Do we want to play
Right.
that?
That's part of the James Lee clip. If you do want to play it, we can go ahead and do that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, let's play
Where
that.
is the police? There is a police station, the Bondi police station, situated literally 1 block away from the shooting. So I don't know exactly what happened. Like I mentioned, where was the police in all of this?
Can you tell me what happened?
Yes, there was 2 shooters, one on the bridge, one under the bridge. Just start to shoot for 20 minutes. They shoot, change magazine and just shoot. Simple as that. 20 minutes with 4 policemen there. Nobody give fire back. Nothing. Like they are froze. Like for it looked like 20 minutes. Like, and they shoot. The guy change magazine. I look at him all the time. I was 2 of my babies under me, and I look at that, and it's just rifle and a pistol, and just shoot.
Would this not be
All right, I'm gonna cut it there. So, I just caught this. That guy was saying like 20 minutes. He was just shooting and shooting. It kind of from the clip that you played, I know a lot happened before.
I showed the last 2 minutes, and that's of at least a 10-minute video, where the beginning of the 10-minute video There are sirens in the background, and so it does continue for at least 10 minutes, possibly 20.
Okay. I'm a little iffy if there was a stand down order. Um, I don't know. It did seem like that, there was a guy an officer from behind that came up fairly close. So
Well,
I'm not
yeah,
going
so
saying that there was probably a stand down order. I don't know.
yeah, the guy who actually took down one of the shooters looked like he was plainclothes, but the four uniformed officers that were there, of those, I did see one or two of them that were like hiding behind a car for at least a couple minutes. So
Oh,
they
those
were
guys
on
behind the
scene.
cars?
There were officers hiding behind vehicles that were on scene for several minutes without responding.
On camera, those guys behind the cars, those are cops?
No, not in that camera. No, there's
Okay.
still photos of cops crouched behind cars. I didn't include it here, but they do exist.
Okay. All right. So let's go into the identity of the guy that took the shooter down.
Okay, sure. All right. So the identity of the guy that actually disarmed one of the shooters, he's known as 43-year-old Ahmed Al-Ahmed. He was a Syrian-born Muslim who immigrated to Australia, and he is actually the hero of the day because he stopped what could have been a much larger shooting. And most of the news outlets are not actually covering this enough, and especially like Israel is barely reporting on this at all. So they are
Okay.
trying to kind of cover up the fact that he's a Muslim.
And let's share what Bibi Netanyahu said this guy was. We'll play that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
ראינו את הרוע בשפלותו, וראינו גם גבורה יהודית בשיאה. אני ראיתי בדרך הנה סרטון של יהודי שמתנפל על אחד המרצחים, שומט ממנו את הנשק ומציל מי יודע כמה נפשות.
Right. So he felt comfortable enough to again take credit for a Syrian immigrant who was Muslim and saying that he was Jewish. Okay.
Yeah.
And now he's also condemning the statement that the Prime Minister of Australia said that he acknowledged the independent state of Palestine. And that was because there was a huge demonstration earlier this year in Australia with 300,000 people showed up in support of Palestine. And so he is calling for the retraction of that statement or for the prime minister to, I guess, is he asking for him to something about anti-Semitism, right?
Well, he's saying that he made a big mistake by recognizing the statehood of Palestine, and that is what has triggered a lot of anti-Semitism in Australia. And
Okay.
Bibi months ago wrote that letter to him saying, you need to do something about anti-Semitism in Australia. And he kind of gave him a deadline until Rosh Hashanah, which is like September. And so,
Okay.
yeah. And so since
Right.
that has passed, Bibi's like, see, I told you so.
Right. And does he want like a regime change or something like that?
He is now calling for regime change in Australia because he has done nothing about anti-Semitism and recognizes the statehood of Palestine.
Wow, he just wants to take out all these governments,
Yeah.
switch them into a more favorable one. Okay, let's touch a little on the guy that's being blamed for this because his name,
Yeah.
Naveed Akram, it's actually a very common name.
Yeah, so this is the identity that they showed. This is the ID they showed, Naveed Akram, and I believe they may have gotten this off of the shooter and provided this to the media. However, there is some discrepancy as to the true identity of the shooter. So these are some of the images that have circulated. The one is on the left is from social media, which has circulated very widely and may not actually be the shooter. The one in the middle is a video. It's a still from a video of the shooting, so that is definitely the shooter. And then the one on the right is from his ID. However, it doesn't necessarily look as much like the guy in the middle as you would think. A lot of investigators have actually found this. This is a Facebook post or Facebook page that was recently taken down of David Cohen. Now, David Cohen may actually be the real identity of the shooter who is trying to pass as Naveed Akram. And there is a little bit of connection between him and Mossad and the IDF. And so the original claims of the shooter being Mossad and IDF might actually be accurate, but not as tied to the identity of Naveed Akram, but rather David Cohen. And there is more on that.
He survived, right? So
yes,
we should be able to get more information. I'm not comfortable, like, pinning this on one person based on a social media profile.
right.
Because it's happening to other people. And I'm going to play another Naveed Akram who is being blasted online as the shooter. And this guy doesn't look like him at all.
Hello everyone, this is Naveed here. Today I'm going to talk about a very serious and terrible incident that has happened in Bondi Beach, and so many people have been killed, and I really condemn that attack. That should not have happened. The other thing, the serious thing that I'm going to talk about is misinformation that has been spread on social media. As everyone know that as per media reports, one of the shooter name was Naveed Akram, and my name is Naveed Akram as well. So the people, some of the social media accounts, they have taken my pictures from my Facebook account, and they are linking that picture to that shooter. So I'm gonna clearly tell everyone that that is not me, and I have nothing to do with that incident or with that person. That is a different person.
Okay, he goes on to say that he's afraid to go out. He's afraid for his life because he's been blamed for this.
All right. He doesn't look anything like the guy. In my opinion, David Cohen looks a lot more like the actual shooter.
Yeah, and this, I guess, is a very common name. Let's talk about the crisis actor, and we have pretty good evidence that he's not an actual victim, right?
Right. Yeah. So there was sort of a viral selfie image that I'm not going to show here because it's allegedly showing blood, which I kind of doubt that. However, there was someone who was very becoming famous, I guess, because of that viral selfie image. His name is Arsen Ostrovsky, and he either has really bad luck or really good luck, because not only did he survive this attack, but he also survived the October 7th attacks as well. And not to mention a Yemen attack at some point in the past also. And it's very highly unlikely that he would be at both events, just kind of like George Zinn, you know what I mean, being at several events. And so an ex-user named Ian Malcolm, I encourage people to follow him. He actually asked Grok, what are the odds of this person being and surviving both events? And Grok said 1 in 10 billion, which works out to about 34 times less likely than winning the Powerball. All right. And on top of that, Grok was also asked if the blood in that image actually appeared fake. And Grok replied, yes, this image appears staged or fake. The blood has unnaturally bright, glossy red hue that's more consistent with corn syrup-based fake blood or paint used in movies and special effects makeup than real blood, which tends to darken and coagulate quickly upon exposure to air. And I'm not going to show the viral selfie picture, but you do see some very thin stains on his arm, which would not occur if it was actual blood. Blood would be thicker than that.
Okay, I'm going to play his statement here.
I survived October 7th. I lived in Israel the last 13 years. We came here only 2 weeks ago to work with the Jewish community, to fight anti-Semitism, to fight this bloodthirsty, ravaging hatred.
That's why you're here.
That's why I'm here. We've lived through worse. We're going to get through this, and we're going to get the bastards that did this.
Tell me, did you see the gunman?
I did. I saw at least one gunman firing. Looked like a shotgun firing randomly in all directions. I saw children falling to the floor. So elderly. I saw invalids. I saw people just. It was an absolute bloodbath. Blood gushing everywhere. October 7th. That's the last time I saw this.
So my analysis based on this information here is that this was set up. I don't know how they got those two guys to carry this out. I almost feel like they were supposed to both get, taken down, like not survive, because now we have a guy that was, we could question him. I mean, hopefully we do, unless someone else gets to him before that. I don't know. I don't have a lot of confidence that we'll get, a lot of information from the survivor, the guy that was shooting. And now it's being spun to say that the guy that saved people by taking the gun away from one of the shooters is Jewish. And obviously he's not. He's actually a Syrian immigrant who's Muslim, which kind of throws off the whole narrative. So, oops, that happens. And then they're also trying to drum up support for the upcoming war with Iran. And we've been hearing that with other things, such as the Butler shooting. And seems like they're all trying to blame Iran for anything bad that happens. But is that kind of how you see it too?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So not only is this to try to curb free speech, especially anti-Semitic speech within Australia, but they're also even further cracking down on gun ownership in Australia, which is hard to believe. But yes, it does seem like geopolitically, this is to start a war with Iran.
And I did hear on the PBD podcast that the victims are not all Jewish. They're Christians. I don't have documentation, but there were a number of Christians killed and children. So
That's true. It's summertime in Australia, and summertime at the beach is usually very crowded. They say that there could have been 2,000 people that were present at the beach, and only a small percentage of those were actually there for Hanukkah.
Right. Okay, so I think that's going to do it. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so before you leave, and please share this video so we can we can get new eyes on this information. I know my subscriber base is pretty much on board with this, but we need to let more people know. So, if they know that a lot of people know what's really going on, it might discourage more false flag events from happening. That's the best that I can hope for. So that's going to do it. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you all soon. Bye.